little kiss, and it's all downhill after that. Okay. They do also give you the option to open the door and jump out as well. That was my best joke, so if you haven't laughed yet, you've got no chance. Now what we're going to do, we're going to start to make our way down to the Tower of London. As you can see behind us, we've got the Houses of Parliament, the seat of our British government, more commonly known to us Londoners as the Westminster Gasworks, because of all the hot air that comes out of that building. Now you may think that you can see Big Ben. As a matter of fact you can't. What you can see is the Great Clock at Westminster. Big Ben is merely a nickname of the 13.5-ton bell that chimes the hour. So you can't see Big Ben, you can only hear it. So when you get home, if someone says to you, did you see Big Ben, you can wind them up a little bit and say, no, I never. So there you go. This next bridge, the Charing Cross Railway Bridge, it's a bit of an old tradition on the River Thames that as you go under this bridge, if there is anyone up there, give them a wave, and if they wave back at you, it is said to bring you 5 years of luck. So if there is anyone up there, do give them a wave. For those of you in the open, just smile and wave.
We're kidnapping you all.
Wave back your original bits. Don't worry, if you didn't get a wave back, there's another one on the other side. So keep smiling and waving. We've only got another 22 to go. And on the right hand side, we've got the Royal Festival Hall, the last remaining building from the Festival of Great Britain in 1951. It's a very famous building and many famous people have played there, such as Liza Minnelli, Michael Jackson, Sir Elton John and Frank Sinatra. They've all played over on your right hand side. And if you've got your cameras ready, you'll get a photo coming up on your left hand side of London's oldest monument, Cleopatra's Needle. Now the needle itself is over 3,500 years old. It was given to us from a thankful Egyptian government for the victory over France at the Battle of the River Nile. And there's an exact replica of the monument, the twin to that needle, in Central Park, New York City. Quite a proud moment for you ladies on board the boat. The next bridge, Waterloo Road Bridge, more commonly known on the river as the Ladies' Bridge. And the reason for that, when it was constructed, most of the men were out fighting at war, fighting for king and country, which left it simply down to the women. And being women, they used the most expensive stone that they could get their hands on, which was a Portland self-cleaning stone, funnily enough. And every time it rains here in London, which isn't very often, I assure you, the bridge will get a thorough clean. As we go under the bridge, if you look to either side and above, you'll see that it's very dirty where the rain doesn't penetrate. But on the outside, it's still as good as new. And the women also built the longest bridge to stand over the river. So give yourselves a little round of applause. I do think that you deserve it. Well done. Of course, though, there was a man in charge. Because you've got to have some credit. Or at least he thought he was. Now on your right hand side, behind the trees, we've got the grey building with the flashing signboard on the front that looks a bit to me like a multi-storey car park. Well, it isn't. That is actually London's Royal National Theatre. And that building gets voted year after year by some of the country's leading architects as being the ugliest building in London. Now I actually disagree with that myself. I think that that is the ugliest building in the world. Prince Charles, he described that building as looking like the back end of a nuclear power station. And we have to agree with Prince Charles, don't we? Because he knows what ugly things look like. And I was talking about buildings. Grow up. The large white vessel ahead of us on your left-hand side. This is the Wellington. She was a former New Zealand Navy sloop, but is now permanently moored here as a drinking club, a floating livery hall to the honourable company of Master Mariners. And to become a Master Mariner, you must have served a minimum of 25 years as the captain of a ship at sea. And the head of that drinking club, that livery hall, is the Queen's husband, Prince Philip. He was a captain for a very long time. We do often see Prince Philip staggering about at the back of the boat after a few too many. I was getting a little bit messy. If you look to the stern of that boat, look at the back of that boat, you'll see a stone archway. I need this out of the way. And that is known as Temple Arch or Temple Gate. And that is an official boundary line between two cities. The city of Westminster, which we are now leaving, and the city of London, which we are entering into. This red brick building coming up on your right hand side, this is known to us as Stamford Wall, and it used to be a cold meat storage warehouse, but the building got taken over. It got bought by the famous gravy company, Oxo, and they're very clever because you're not allowed to advertise on the banks of the River Thames. It's actually illegal, as this is the Queen's River. But if you look at the tower up the top, you can see that they put their windows in as OXO. And at night time that will glow up with an luminous red colour, and they get free advertisement all over London. I do not have a clue how they got away with that. They was taken to court, but apparently when they was in court, the judge said it was merely a coincidence. We reckon there was a bit of money involved. And coming up on your left-hand side, the head of the boat, we've got a white building with a green sloping roof. And that is the old City of London School for Boys. That's where most of our past Prime Ministers and Members of Parliament went to school before going on to Oxford and Cambridge University. The building itself is now owned by a very wealthy banking company who are called JP Morgan. A lot like most of the other older buildings here in London. It is a bit of a shame, I suppose, to them. The set of bridges ahead of us, these are the Blackfriars Bridges. They're the closest bridges together on the River Thames. And as you'll see in a second, the railway bridge on the other side is under a lot of construction at the moment. They're getting ready for next year's Olympic Games. And what they're actually doing on this railway bridge, they're building the first railway station to stand over the River Thames. We've got loads of railway lines, loads of railway bridges, but on the other side of this is going to be the first railway station. Transport for London are actually spending a whopping £500 million on this bridge alone. And of course that is the taxpayers' money, mine and yours. But I suppose that we can't put a price on the chance of winning 2 bronze medals at the Olympics next year. And if you Americans could slow down a bit, that helps out a lot. Now we're about halfway to the Tower of London. Are you all happy so far? Shall I continue?
Yes.
All in favour, say right?
Aye.
Well, I will do. Have a little. Shannon, could I have a water, please? Now, as we come out from under the bridge, you'll see over on your right-hand side ahead of us, we've got a brown building with a chimney. Now, I don't know if anyone likes a bit of modern art. Anyone like modern art? So this is the old Bankside Power Station. It's now a modern art museum. It's called the Tate Gallery, and it is free. And if you go in there, you'll see such modern art exhibitions as a messy teenager's bedroom, half of a cow in a box, a light that turns on and off all day long, and a half-eaten chicken curry. And that's what they call modern art. In my opinion, just my opinion, that's exactly why that place is free. I don't think they've got the cheek to charge you. What I think is real art, over on your left-hand side, dominating the London skyline, the dome and cross of St Paul's Cathedral, the masterpiece of Christopher Wren. It took him 35 years to construct at the price of only £75,000. You would struggle to buy a run-down one-bedroom apartment in London for that price today. Stands at 365 feet high, which is very easy to remember because it's 1 foot for every day of the year. Now, I don't really advise that you go over to St Paul's at the moment. I think they're doing some sort of protest. I see something on the news about it. Stay away for a couple of days, but if you do see that it's cleared up, have a little look in the newspaper. Do go and have a little look over there. It's quite a nice place. I think that's quite Now, if you like a bit of Shakespeare, coming up on your right-hand side behind the trees, the white building with the brown thatched roof. This is an exact replica of William Shakespeare's Globe Theatre, the only building in London to be allowed a thatched roof since the Great Fire of London. You can go there in the summer months and watch a show being acted out in a traditional manner. They don't use any stage lighting or any sound effects, and they dress in the periodic way. Unfortunately, their season has ended, like I said, in the summer. So if you did want to go and see a show, you've got a good excuse to come back to London next year. Come and do it next year. But it's going to be nice and busy, clearly. The next bridge that we're going to pass under is Southwark Road Bridge, London's least used bridge, built to take some of the congestion away from the old London Bridge, but it is so well hidden in the back streets of London that no one can actually find this bridge. They do say that if you see any people up there as you're going under the bridge, give them a wave because they're probably lost or very, very drunk. I don't know if anyone's up there. See? Oh, he's been up there for 4 days now. Can't find his way up. We spoke a little bit back there about Shakespeare. Coming up on your right, we've got this black glass building. This is the headquarters of the Financial Times newspaper now. But when it was constructed, they found the remains of the original Globe Theatre. So that's where it was over on your right-hand side. This was the entertainment place of London. This old pub coming up on your right is the Anchor at Bankside. Built in 1615, it is said that Shakespeare used to use the attics of that pub as a dressing room for his actors. So it's a very famous old pub for that reason alone. Do try and go and have a little visit there as well. Try and go and have a little pint in there. It's quite nice. This is the Cannon Street Railway Bridge. Not a very interesting bridge at all. All that I can tell you about this bridge is that it stops the train from falling into the river. Not very interesting bridge. But what is quite interesting, coming up on your right-hand side, ahead of the boat, we've got a dock entrance. And in that dock entrance says Pirate Ship. Now I want you to put your hands up if you've seen the film Pirates of the Caribbean, the first one. Have you seen that? Well, you may actually recognise the ship on your right-hand side has nothing to do with that film whatsoever. It's a really good film, and that reminds me. It's actually an exact working replica of Sir Francis Drake's Golden Hind. He was the first Englishman to circumnavigate the world, and that ship has followed in his footsteps. It's actually been around the world twice. So there we go. This last bridge that we're going to pass under before we go into the Tower of London is the world famous London Bridge. Commonly mistaken for the next bridge down, which is actually called Tower Bridge. Now this is the fourth London Bridge to stand on this site in nearly 2,000 years. The first one was a wooden bridge built by the Romans, and that burnt down. And as you probably gathered from the nursery rhyme, most of the others fell down. But one, however, for the Americans aboard the boat, was taken down piece by piece, and shipped out to a place called Lake Havasu, where it now stands as a tourist attraction in the Arizona desert. I don't know if anyone's seen the bridge. Anyone seen it? Anyone heard the story about the bridge? There was quite a funny story to go with it as well. And it was bought by a very wealthy American man called Mr. John McCulloch for the price of £1 million. And he thought that he had a bargain. He thought that he hit the jackpot, getting London Bridge for £1 million. He made that very common mistake, and he truly believed that he was buying Tower Bridge. You can imagine his face when he opened the box and saw that instead of that. You wouldn't be very happy with it. Coming up on your left, behind the trees, a white building with a black and gold clock. That is known to us as Watergate House, and that is the Queen's Customs and Excise building, which means that anything that gets confiscated from you at our airports, if you bring in too much alcohol, too many cigarettes, any drugs, it all goes in that building on your left-hand side to be put into a big incinerator and disposed of. Okay. Now, I've lived in London all my life. I was born just over there on the south. I've never seen a bit of smoke come out of those chimneys in that building in all the time that I've lived here. But I know someone who actually works in there, and they say that the Christmas parties are phenomenal. That's just what they say. The Old Navy ship on your right-hand side is the HMS Belfast. Some of you may not be able to see the ship because she is painted in her camouflage colours. But if you can see it, then it is quite nice. Built in the same shipyard as the Titanic, which was the Harland and Wolff shipyard in Belfast, Northern Ireland. It's now permanently moored here as part of the Imperial War Museum. You can go on there for about £5 or £6. They've had a few beers, haven't they? Let the children play on there, like them sort of children. They can spend all day on there. They've got 9 main decks to explore, most of which consist of ladders. If you want to tire them out, then take them on there. I promise you they'll be happy by the time we get home. Give them a wave up there, because it makes you look like we're having a better day than you. Now don't worry too much about getting a photo of the bridge. We'll take you up there and we'll turn the boat on its side so you can all get a nice photo. But first of all, this round glass building on your right hand side. This is the Mayor of London, Boris Johnson's office. This is where he works every day. Well, this is where he turns up to work every day. And this building cost the taxpayer, me and you, £25 million. And it gets better. 20 million went on the construction of that building, and the government paid the company £5 million to think of a name for that building. True story. It took them 4 years to finally complete it, and the name that they eventually came up with, which I thought was well worth £5 million, was City Hall. I'm very good at thinking of names, aren't I? There we go. I think I could have done better than that in 5 years. And if you actually look at the shape of that building, you can see that the architect has designed it to look exactly like Boris Johnson's head. Now what we're going to do, we're going to turn the boat on its side, like I said, so you can all get a nice photo of Tower Road Bridge. I'll tell you a bit about the bridge. It was built in 1894 by Sir John Wolfe Parry, and it was built in the Gothic style, to blend in with its surroundings of the Tower of London. The bridge isn't as old as it looks. Now, as a few of you may know, Tower Bridge is a suspension bridge, which means that we can stop the traffic on the road and open the centre of the bridge in less than 90 seconds for any taller ships that might like to pass in. We get a lot of cruise liners come up into London.